Okay, so the next step is to prioritize and weight the data sets that we've reclassified. Make sure that for this step that we are weighting those reclass data that have values from 1 to 10. This is the step that is the precursor to actually combining the data together. And the idea here is that you know, uh, when you have these three layers, um, maybe based on a survey or some focus groups and people you're working with on this particular project, even within the scenario, they may prioritize one or one factor over another factor. So, for example, the relative they want to assign relative weights to each of the various factors. In this case, we're going to be assigning weights to the slope and the fire hazards and the distance to roads. So let me go to my PowerPoint here and let me type in some more information. This was the standardized layer was uh, um, slope, and then the this one was distance to highways. Um, this one, and then this one was, you know, uh, fire. I guess it's a fire hazard, minimize fire hazard risk, um, hazard risk. Okay, so these are our kind of transformed data. And we need to assign weights to each of these. And the weights should range from 0 to 1, but the sum of all the weights should equal 1. Um, so in other words, you have like a percent of weight for each of these, and it would sum to 100%. So let's say slope was determined to be the most important of the three factors considered in this scenario. So let's assign it a weight of 0.5. Also, it would be a 50%. And let's say distance to roads has a factor of zero point 0.3 or 30%. And then here I want to assign fire risk to 20%. Now, these are just kind of arbitrary, but you can imagine that, let's say you're working with some specialists or some community organizations or some interest groups, and you arrive at these values through some process and reach consensus on this. So it's part of a broader planning process. So here are our weights. Now we need to assign these weights to the data that we've calculated. So I'm going to go back to ArcGIS Pro. Let's begin with our elevation. So we have our reclass of slope here, and we want to assign a weight of 0.5 to this. So the way to do that is to use what's called the uh, Raster Calculator tool. And what we can do here is see how we have a list of all of the raster data sets within our table of contents. And I'm going to start with this reclass of slope. And I'm literally just going to multiply that by 0.5. And then I want to make sure that we're saving this in the right area. So reclass of slope, and then I'm just going to give it an underscore W for weight, for weighted. Save. And then so instead of having it be this 1 to 10, we're going to multiply it by zero point 0.5, each of these cells. So the lowest value would be 0.5 and the highest value would be 5. And that's what we have here. Okay. And you'll see why we do this in our next step. Okay, so we're done with our weighted data set of slope. Let's move on to distance to highways or distance to roads. And here we wanted to multiply that one by 0.3. So make sure you're choosing the right one, the reclass distance to roads in this case, 0.3. And then I'm going to give it distance to roads and then underscore W, save, and then I'm going to run that one. And here, this makes sense. The maximum value is 3 and the minimum value is 0.3. Okay, now how about fire risk, fire hazard risk? So this is our input layer for that. I'm going to remove what's in here. Reclass, where is it? Reclass fire hazard. Multiply that by 0.2. So all of the weights add up to 1. Let's see, fire hazard, and then give it an underscore W for weighted, letting us know that that's the weighted data set. I'm going to run that. Okay, so here's our weighted data set with the maximum value of 2 and 0.2. And believe that's all we needed to do for this step 5.